There are rumors floating around of a PlayStation 5.
Seriously? Again?
Yeah. We're going to talk about it. Stay tuned for the Punchcast.
Shut up and sit down.
Welcome, everybody, to the DwnFwdPUNChcast, episode 11. I'm your host, Jason Saris, and back with us today is David.
I am back.
How you doing, David?
Life has been so hard.
I'm sorry to hear
Oh
that.
my gosh. I've just been so busy.
Keeping busy?
Just flipping through channels. I did finish Breaking Bad for a second time, though.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, that was a lot of fun.
So good.
Oh, it's even better when you watch Better Call Saul.
Yeah.
You pick up on all the little, like,
I started that
hints.
show. I am on the second season, but I'm not current yet.
Okay, all right.
But
It's
getting there.
it's the best, most boring show I've ever watched in my life. Like, nothing happens in that show. Nobody dies. Nothing happens
At
at
least
all.
not yet.
Well, there's no like real crime or anything. It's just like this weird drama that for some reason is extremely addicting.
I
So
like it, but it's not as compelling to me as Breaking Bad is.
there's something strangely compelling about that show. I just love it. But yeah, anyway, so just sitting there just watching episode after episode. Finally
Good.
finished it again. So
Yeah.
yeah. Busy with Direct Dave.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Yeah. Doing a lot of that. Hoping that we'll get some subscribers at some point. Currently, it's just my mom.
Yeah, I've subscribed. I tune in every once in a
YouTube.
while.
That's right. Okay.
It's always interesting to kind of check in on you. Should have brought a clip.
I did actually.
Oh, you did?
Let's roll it.
Okay, let's take a clip. This is Direct Dave.
This is Direct Dave.
Looks like you're struggling there a bit.
I haven't quite figured out how to make food yet.
Okay, it's a good thing you're
That's
married.
why I'm very skinny.
Well, welcome. We have a great show for you today. We're going to talk about a couple things, but mostly we're going to focus on the rumors of the PlayStation 5.
This shit was all speculation anymore. It's like we never have cold hard facts.
But that's the industry right now. I mean, sometimes when we have something to go off of,
I
we
just
run
like to
with it.
have one thing that actually is true, like
know, but
Kingdom
that's
Hearts
not as-
3.
Yeah, Kingdom Hearts 3.
That's true.
Are you
right?
announcing it? Are
Well,
we breaking?
I'm not announcing, but there's speculation that it is an actual game and it will sometime come out in the next centennial year.
Well, if it's speculation, then stay tuned for next week.
Oh,
'cause
we'll
we may
probably be
speculate
talking
like
about
crazy.
it. That's all we ever talk about anyway.
We'll have to get Topher in for that because he would be very sad.
Actually, to be
panda.
honest with you, I think we should just leave him out of it. Otherwise, he could just do the whole show himself, and
true.
we'll just be sitting there being like, "Is he done yet?" I mean, good God, this is all he does. He just talks about Kingdom Hearts. And he'd induct every single version of Kingdom Hearts in the Video Game Hall of Fame if it was up to him.
That's true.
There literally would be a Kingdom Hearts Hall of Fame, and it would just be every entry in the series.
I'm sorry. Did you say Video Game Hall of Fame?
Yes.
Okay, just making sure.
I mean, our Video Game Hall of Fame, and that sweet sounding effect that we had. And then,
It was a very, very excited. It was very
oh, it was
exciting.
awesome. I loved it. I'm just really sad I couldn't have been here for it because I think all of your entries were incorrect.
Obviously. But you're here
Well,
now.
Mario 64, you said I was
yeah.
on board with that.
But
Somehow
we'll do it
you-
again. We'll do it again next week,
All right.
next year, and
Next year?
yeah,
I'm not going to know you by next year.
you've had your fill. Fair enough. But anyways, back to the topic at hand. We are
Sure.
talking about the Sony PlayStation 5. Now, for anybody who doesn't know, there is a gentleman. He is an analyst from Macquarie Capital Services or Macquarie Capital Securities.
We have to come back to that because I have a beef with that already. But go ahead.
You have a beef with the guy?
Yeah,
being an
I have a
analyst?
beef with the fact that, like, video game information is coming from what sounds like some hedge fund company. Okay?
That's exactly what it is. I mean,
Yeah.
it's a financial firm.
I know, and I
Yeah.
don't like it because the other guy, like the Pachter guy or whatever, like, How did that guy, like, can you imagine working? You've worked in a bank before, so
Many
have
years,
I, right?
yeah.
There is nobody cool that works at a bank, almost. It's
I
very
work there,
hard.
and I like to think of myself as pretty sweet.
There's some cool people, but the majority of people are not cool in a bank, okay? They're all
yeah.
usually really old and crotchety. They have no idea what's going on around them, let alone in the world, let alone in pop culture, and especially in video games, okay? So my thing is like, these financial institutions have a guy that talks about video games. Like, you have to imagine that he is the most unpopular person there. Because he's not talking about, like, stock funds and...
But he is, though. That's the thing. So, like, this guy is not just talking about video games because he finds it enjoyable. He may. He may
it's
also
his job.
It's his job to try
That's
to see where the
crazy.
market is going and whatnot because of the reason that people invest.
It's still a business.
Yeah, I mean, companies do this all the time. When you handle large financial accounts, or you're somebody that gets involved with stocks and that kind of things, you have to stay in tune with the market, and you have to try to predict where companies are going to go. So in order to say, hey, we should start buying X stock, and let's say in this case, if it's a PlayStation scenario, right?
Sure.
We want to make some money. So you look and say, what's in the landscape for the future? And maybe based on what they're seeing, they believe that Sony is going to, in this case, come out with a PlayStation 5 next year in order to, to fuel the idea of like, let's buy or let's not buy. And, it just depends how the firm works. And some of them, that's what they do. They try to say, well, where do we think a company's going? Other places, they may look at it and say, all right, well, who took a hit? Like, for example, United. I mean, they're very popular right now in the YouTube and news world.
Fly United.
Nobody likes United right now except for apparently you.
I know
United's
somebody that
taking a
works
lot of
for
hit.
them. I have to say I like them.
But United's taking a big hit in popular opinion, right? United is going to be fine. Like they're going to ride this out, and they're going to keep selling airline tickets. So at some point, while they may be taking a hit right now in their stock is going to go back up. So a lot of these financial companies are going to look at United and say, this is the perfect time to buy because people are upset with them because they did something stupid.
Right, but then they'll forget.
And then eventually they'll forget, and their stock will rise, and then you make a bunch of money. So there are people that play the market different ways.
Sure.
And trying to predict where Sony is going, it can be a very legitimate business decision.
It is a legitimate business. I get it. You know what I mean? Everything. We look at video games for money reasons, or I'm sorry, for fun reasons, right? Like video games are great. Like,
It's entertainment.
A giant form of entertainment for us. But then there are people out there that look at the financial side of it, and that's boring. I mean, that sucks. Whatever. Good for them. I mean, if they want to predict things, that's awesome.
Yeah.
The thing is, though, is that in a year from today, that guy is going to still be wrong.
Maybe. So he first came out with this prediction back in September, and even when it came out in September, I'm like, yeah, whatever, buddy. And we didn't even, we weren't even. This wasn't even on our.
I don't even think the PS4 Pro was out in September yet.
I don't remember when the PS4 Pro dropped.
I'm pretty sure it was like November.
But speaking of the PS4 Pro, the reason why this guy has, why anybody gives this credence right now, because we're not the only place reporting this. I mean, plenty of people have made reference to it, is because this guy, and his name is DwnFwdPUNCh, by the way. This guy has successfully predicted both the PS4 Slim and the PS4 Pro. He claimed both of those were coming, and he was accurate about both of them. So,
do you think that Cisco song is about him?
It's very hard to talk about this guy without thinking about it. And I knew you were going to go there.
DwnFwdPUNCh.
Yeah.
That's probably how he announces himself in a room,
If he doesn't, he should.
Well, that song was about me, just in case anyone was
then
wondering.
all the other bankers would definitely hate him.
All the other bankers would be like, I don't understand what you're talking about. Who is this Cisco character?
Cisco Securities, the one that does our networking. Yes, of course.
Yeah, no,
Yeah,
it's the singer
No.
with the Band-Aid on his face.
That was Nelly. Nelly did the
Oh, I bank. I don't understand these things.
bank. So anyway, this guy is saying that there's going to be a PlayStation 5 second half of 2018.
Okay.
Now, these prediction things, sometimes they're just wild stabs in the dark based on, where somebody's opinion about where a company has been. But other times, these analysts, they have inside intelligence,
Yes.
right? They may know somebody that works in a company or
There are
whatever the
plenty
case
of
would be.
scenarios of... Look, I think we even talked about it at one point, but like rumors now basically might as well just be fact in most cases.
A lot of times they are, yeah.
Yeah, it's like, guys, we think Destiny might be coming out, and there's probably going to be a reveal on the 13th. I found it written on a napkin on the bathroom floor in a restaurant.
Yeah.
Pretty sure this is fact, though. And then sure enough, it's actually true. It's like, okay, so but I still don't think there's a PlayStation 5 coming next year. I really don't.
I keep going back and forth. Like, part of me...
I have so many reasons why.
Okay, well, why
you
don't you think?
go ahead and continue. I don't want to keep interrupting you.
No, please, by all means. Like, because I don't have a definitive answer one way or another. I'm not this guy. I don't know what he knows. But why don't you think it's true?
As far as I know right now, in terms of technology-wise, the only advancement we're seeing is that people are trying to take a step in the direction of VR, right?
Right.
They're not talking about the next set of DirectX. They're not necessarily talking about the next level of graphics, right? And ultimately, graphics... like thresholds are what kind of push a system to a new platform, right? Like to a new limit. So with there nothing being new out there tech wise outside of VR, which then requires additional hardware in this case, but doesn't really change graphically the experience. I don't see any reason outside of 4K, right? Now 4K, don't get me wrong, is definitely a graphical improvement, but it's not like the next step in visual graphics. Like it's not like developers are. I mean, I'm probably setting myself off here for a giant failure, but I just don't feel like 4K, yeah, we have systems now that can do it. And ultimately, we just need developers to make games for 4K, okay?
Right.
So until, like, the next generation of graphics appears, I really don't feel like a PS5 or an Xbox 2 is coming out.
So here's, fair point, here's my counterpoint. The PlayStation 4, the traditional 4, the Slim, and even the Pro, they're using hardware that was developed 5-6 years ago.
Sure.
Right? I mean, the consoles themselves have been out for, the mainline PlayStation
Right.
4 has been out for 5 years now. So the technology that's in there is not the most modern versions of there. There's actually, if this was true and there is a PlayStation 5, it would likely use a newer AMD CPU that is not currently being used in the PlayStation 4 family.
Okay.
There's also a newer GPU that could be used that would be able to, I mean, the goal, again, one of the big goals would be 4K, I think.
Yeah.
I mean, we're talking, Xbox has got the Scorpion. They're touting like, hey, native 4K.
Well,
So that would obviously
you
be a
just
goal.
said it. I just forgot. There's
But
this
we're-
thing called the Scorpio coming out. I
Yeah.
forgot about that.
But there's also been talk, some of these, because, some of the other rumblings with this is that the PS5 would up the ante by hitting your favorite word, 10 teraflops
Good
versus
Lord.
6.
Oh man, the teraflops. That's why I buy systems. Be like, hey, what's better, like Xbox or PlayStation? Be like, well, it depends
How
on
many flops do you
how
need?
many teraflops are
How
you
many
looking
teras of flops do you need?
for? Well, you make a good point with that, and I was going to say one other thing though, in like as a counter argument, is that like Sony has gone through and they've just released like a $300 1 terabyte system. Okay, so the current system right now comes with the game. It's 500 gigs. It's $300. The 1 terabyte version of the game doesn't come with anything of PlayStation rather. Doesn't come with any game, but it is a 1 terabyte. So you get double the hard drive for the exact same price. You just don't get a game.
Right.
Okay. Then you have the PS4 Pro, which is another $100 past that. 4K native. It's got the.
It's not 4K native. It's 4K
Well, I'm sorry.
upscale.
It supports 4K resolution
Right.
and upscaling and all that. But then it also supports the 1 terabyte hard drive, which for some people was a draw. But then Sony released that update that allows you to go put an external hard drive, much like an Xbox, and now you have all the storage space in the world. Which realistically, at this point, they should probably just keep following that. Because I swear to God, if I see another system come out and be like, oh, well, we added another 500 gigs, why don't you go and get this model now? I'm just like, just please stop. Just make a system, release games for it, and just keep things simple. Like,
Yeah.
I don't need to see 6 different versions of the same system. That's never been a thing until now.
Right.
And it's like every single.
Well, it's because consoles are
freaking
following
week.
more of the PC model now. They're starting to make that shift. I mean, with
But you're
with
not
PC
even able
gaming,
to customize, though, realistically.
Right.
Think about it, because on a PC, all of your data is on a hard drive in most cases, right?
Right.
Well, what happens when you switch out your PlayStation? Unless you're, savvy enough to know that maybe I can transfer my data onto a USB drive, or maybe I saved all my data to an external drive, so when I get my new system, I can switch it over. Most people are going to lose everything when they switch. So it is not like, oh, I can go get the Black Ops 4 version of the PlayStation 1 terabyte with all these cool graphics on it because I'm upgrading my system.
You
You're
don't
literally
lose all that stuff, though,
You
because-
essentially you lose everything saved internally unless you somehow transfer it out or it's on a cloud, which some games do not save cloud-wise still.
on PlayStation they don't all sync
Correct.
to the cloud.
Not all of them, no. Especially
Wow.
older ones. Like Final Fantasy 15 did it. I think Persona does it, as far as I know.
I mean, with the Xbox, anything you have, all of your stuff is synced in the cloud.
We're
now.
making steps towards making it easier for people to do this stuff, but it's still not there yet.
Yeah.
So you're not like going, oh, I'm just going to go upgrade my system. Like, I'll tell you, when I had a DS, and I've done it plenty of times where I've upgraded my model of my DS. Luckily, they're cartridges. Everything saves on the cartridge. The only thing that's internal are any of the games that I download, which then can be re-downloaded because of my... Much like Xbox Live and PlayStation, you just go and you're like, all right, here's my account. Here's all the stuff I bought. I put it on my new system. It's a smooth transition. It's easy. It's not that way with PlayStation. It really isn't, and that's the stupid thing about it.
To me, I'm very surprised to hear that because I just assumed that PlayStation was doing it like Xbox was, where when you download it or whatever, if you swap something out, it just syncs back up through your
again.
account
We're
profile.
talking save data, not actual game.
Well, yeah, you have to reinstall
data.
the game.
Yeah, that's understandable.
But
I'm
like
fine
if you
with
download
that.
a game through the PlayStation Network,
Yeah.
okay, and then you get a new PlayStation because yours
That's
breaks,
cool. You can do that.
You can re-download it,
yes.
right? Okay,
I'm talking save data. I'm talking like if you're 45 hours in a game.
It's not going to pick up where you left off. You can't sync that
unless it's
That's
cloud-based.
insane.
Unless it's cloud-based.
Why isn't it all
It's
cloud-based?
per game.
That's insane.
Okay, so the whole idea with this, right, is that they just continuously keep releasing like these micro upgrades, and we've talked about this before. Micro upgrades are fine, except like they just continuously do it, and I don't know why. It's like, oh, here's a new bundle with a game. Like, that's fine if it doesn't change anything in the box. Just put a game with it, make it your holiday deal, and that's cool, whatever. But quit making like, here's the slimline model. Like, who in their right mind at some point was like, we need to make this thing as big as possible? And then they're like, someone's like, I got an idea. Why don't we make it smaller? And they're like, why didn't we think of that in the first place? And now they make this new model. Now, granted, Xbox had a really cool transition when it went from original to S. It was like, power adapter, that's for stupid people. Let's get rid of that. And we're going to put it right inside the system.
Yeah.
Dude, the S model is brilliant. I'm all on board with that upgrade, okay? The PS4 Slim doesn't make any sense. The damn thing is slim enough. It doesn't need to be slimmer, realistically, okay? And then on top of that, the PS4 Pro looks like a hamburger, where it's got like the 3 layers or whatever, you know? And then that's fine. It's still big though, you know, whatever. Ultimately, I think it's just stupid that they release like these different designs, but there's really no actual reason to want to go buy it unless you're buying something internal, which would be like hard drive space or possible upgrade to the actual hardware.
You can say that it's dumb as one individual consumer, but it's smart from the business standpoint because
It
you
reinvents
release
your brand consistently.
it gives you another SKU to sell to spark purchasing. But the components and stuff change. So like even though the actual mechanics of the gameplay don't, when you have the Xbox One to Xbox One S is a better example, so I'll use that, even though we're talking PlayStation. So like you have this thing where that thing is gigantic because they wanted to make sure that it vented properly and they use whatever components inside. They want to make sure that they have enough room for everything. As technology continues to grow so quickly with time, they find a way to do it better, cheaper, strong, you know, like all those things. So they build the S with, and to your point, they can now throw the power supply in and they can whatever, and they can figure out how to get the same performance out of smaller packaging.
Yeah.
So they're making improvements, and lots of things do that. I mean, look at cars. I mean, we have a new version of every car every year, and you can make the case that that's also ridiculous.
Right, but it's not
But
like...
people go out and they buy them because they want those incremental
But
improvements.
here's where it differs, if you're going to use that analogy. When I'm driving on the road, it's not like I decide to pick a road and it's like, oh, unfortunately, unless you own the 2018 model, you're not allowed to drive on this road.
Right. And I agree. And
that's the problem with
Yep.
video games, is that eventually you need to upgrade in order to play what's out there. So these model upgrades, from a business standpoint, look, I will always be that guy that doesn't, like, I just want to play games and I want to have fun. And I know these people want to make money, okay? So we don't get along. They want to make money. I get that. But I just want games. So when they're trying to
you can't play
brutalize
games
the
unless
market,
they make money to make more games.
I understand, but in
it's,
the
I
past
know
it
it
never
sucks.
existed this way, Jason. It didn't exist this way. It
But look
wasn't
at
like
the-
you had to
look what
release
we
7
have
different types
now.
of systems during a current console generation of the same damn thing. You didn't have to do that.
I agree.
It needs to stop.
The incremental changes can easily be excessive. I don't think that there's any problem with doing 1, maybe 2. Like I think that Xbox has good reason to do this Scorpio move now. I think that makes sense given their position in the market.
Oh, they need it.
And how much behind the 8 ball they were even compared to the regular PS4 base model.
Right.
I agree with you that it would seem silly for PlayStation to jump to the next generation now. I don't understand why you would do that. So maybe a PS5 is not actually what this thing's going to be. Maybe it's going to be the PS Pro Plus or something. Maybe it's whatever, because now they feel like they're in an arms race for it. The other part of this is, part of me wonders if Sony believes that the Xbox Scorpio is going to make enough dent that they just need to start, the process, or at least start getting out the rumors of this, to basically stall the hype of the Scorpio. Because people that are interested in such a thing, and if they start toying with that idea of maybe I should give this Scorpio a look,
happening.
By floating it out there, the PS5's coming, that stops that person altogether from looking like, well, I could just wait a little bit longer and stay with Sony.
You just, I don't know what you did. You got me thinking, because I had seen an article about this just today, and I have a feeling I know what's going to happen.
Okay.
You're right. Sony, in a way, even though they're on top of the world right now, right? They just have to keep their foot in that pressure on Microsoft. They just got to keep doing it, because it's stupid to let up, right? It's like when a sports team's got the lead and they decide, yeah, we're just going to play it easy for the rest of the game. And they lose because they gave up, right? And in a way, you can't do that. Here's what Sony's going to do. You want to talk speculation?
Before you...
Fine, I'll save it.
No.
But I know what it is. Are
they going to blow a 3-1 lead?
They're going to blow through and lead. Like the Indians and the Golden State Warriors.
The Indians don't matter. That's baseball. That's much more doable. The Warriors, they definitely blew a 3-1 lead.
The Indians were up 3 games.
Yes, that sucks. Anyways, topic for another podcast.
Right.
But
join us for a sports podcast after this.
We're going to do a special episode just this way we can debate the merits.
Watch two people who love video games try to talk about sports. Good luck. Baseball is a fun game where you put basketball in a hoop, and it's great. Anyway. Okay. All that being said, these little console iterations, blah, 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 right? Okay. But then there is the point to what you're talking about and what this guy's talking about, right? Like, something does need to happen, right? Like, Sony does need to kind of say, like, hey, we got something too. Because the PS4 Pro, while it might be selling, there's really no reason to upgrade. It's not that flashy of an upgrade. It's just like, whatever.
And it's not doing particularly well. I mean, it's not selling to projections at all.
At this point, too, especially the months that it's been out, I'm surprised they haven't bundled it with a game yet. They're idiots. I don't know what they're thinking. If they're trying to move it, just at least put something in there. Dude, put like Uncharted in there again. The game's $5. Just get rid of it and put it with it. People will buy it, whatever.
Yeah.
That's fine. I'm sure they have a warehouse full of that game right now that no one's buying.
Probably.
Your big game's going to be God of War this year, so I'm sure they'll do something fun for that, or whatever. Like, it'll be like a white PlayStation with like red paint. Something cool.
That would be pretty cool, actually.
But all that being said, do you want to get into what I think is going to happen Sony-wise?
Please, by all means.
Okay. So Microsoft has to have a huge E3.
Right.
All right. We're like 3 weeks away.
It's pretty close, yeah.
Oh my gosh, it's like 3 or 4 weeks away.
Yeah.
I think it's June like 10th or 11th or something.
Yeah.
So yeah, we're like less than a month away. All right, very exciting. Microsoft's going to have a huge E3. It's got to be all about the games, but at the same time, they have to be like, Scorpio's this awesome thing, and here's why it's going to be sweet. And I'm sure they'll pull it off, and it's going to be great. Sony's got to be like, listen, we've been releasing sweet games for the last like 9 months, and obviously you guys have noticed because these systems are selling like crazy. People love PlayStation. It's doing very well. But now Microsoft's got this really bad system. What do we do? Have you seen the potential prototype of the new PlayStation system? It may not be the PlayStation 5 necessarily, but have you seen what they're doing in terms of a prototype? Supposedly, there's like a leaked picture online, or maybe
is this
just
the
speculation.
concept arts thing that was
maybe
that kind of looks like a Switch?
Yeah,
I have seen this.
Sony is probably not going to release a PS5. They're probably going to release the PlayStation version of the Switch.
So this, for anybody that doesn't know, there was a couple months ago that somebody stumbled upon a patent online which looked like it had some mock-up drawings and it looked like Sony's version of a Nintendo Switch.
Yes.
It has controllers on the side,
Yep.
like, grips on the side, and a screen in the middle, and it was believed to be the predecessor, or the successor rather, to the Vita.
Yes.
Now there's been some leaked concept art where it's starting to raise questions again, and a lot of people are still referring to it as that it was just a concept of the next Vita. But considering how PlayStation has seemed to be pretty much uncaring about the mobile market now, and Nintendo trying to really capitalize on that area, I wouldn't be surprised if this was actually the prototype for their next actual console versus a handheld.
And it very well could be. I'll tell you, like, if Nintendo struck gold on the Switch in a sense, where they came up with another concept that I guess what I like to think of Nintendo as doing things that they give people that they give things to people that they didn't even know they wanted. Okay,
Yeah.
Like the Wii was a great example. I didn't know I wanted a Wii, and then I did, and then I was like, man, this is so cool, you know. And then, in fact, I think you guys had talked about it last week. How, like, you know, Chris was saying that like the Switch shows a bunch of like 20-year-old people on a rooftop, and you guys, like, you were saying something or like or whatever about how, like, you know, in the Wii commercials they showed like old people playing with their families or like kids playing with their dads and their moms and stuff, and like that made sense.
And that was a real thing that happened.
And it was a real thing that happened.
Yeah.
Whereas nobody's actually like, we're not going on your roof right now to go play Mario Kart. You know what I mean? We could. It'd be weird. Your neighbors might call the cops, but we could try.
Yeah. How are you at sitting at a slant?
Very good, actually. Okay. Yeah. But you know that they seem to always find something cool that you're like, you know what? I didn't realize I wanted this, and I kind of do, and I'm glad I have it.
Yeah.
And I play my Switch every day. Got my oil change today. Played my Switch in the dealership. It was the best.
Nice.
You know, I'm like, all these other people, they're just like sitting there watching Dr. Phil, and I'm like, I got Mario Kart. You guys suck. So anyway, you know, things like that are really cool, and I'm finding that I use this darn thing everywhere I go. Well, if Sony does that, right? Oh boy. If Sony does go and do something like this, right? Where like they're like, all right, we're doing a Switch kind of thing. It scares me for Nintendo, but at the same time, I also question how will they take existing software and make it playable on this new system? If they decide to do that, like, will it be like, if I own Horizon, can I download the digital version of the game because it shows that I own it somehow, blah, blah, blah.
Right.
Now I can put it on my PlayStation Portable or whatever.
Yeah, because I think, you know, if you're looking at the next generation from Sony or Microsoft even, I think Nintendo's the only one that kind of doesn't fall into this category.
They don't.
Now that Xbox has brought backwards compatibility to Xbox One, I think that
Something
both
PlayStation
of the next
never did.
Yeah, they didn't, and because from what I understand, it's not because they didn't want to. Like, at first they didn't want to, but after Xbox did it, they were looking into how to do it, and they can't find a way to do it.
Okay.
So I think that that's both a case of what they would have to do with their next console, and it's also maybe supports the argument that they could be working on another console, because in order to do that, they have to tweak the architecture that's used for the system. So if they went to a new x86 architecture that's more streamlined, then maybe they could make it run backwards games versus whatever they did with the PS4 that just it can't.
Do you remember the
happen.
PS3 though?
I do.
The PS3 was like, it had backwards compatibility, but it was only in certain models, right? So it was like
In the beginning,
they had the 2040, 60, 80, right? And I think it was like the 60 and the 80 and possibly a 20. Certain models of the 20, I believe you were able to do backwards compatibility, but not all of them.
Well,
right?
that's because both with the Xbox 360 and with the PlayStation 3, the idea of backwards compatibility was just a sales gimmick, because people don't want to let go of their current generation because they still have things that they want to play.
Sure.
So if you say, hey, you can still play some stuff over here if you move to this new console, then people are willing to make that jump. And then you kind of stop doing it. Because especially at the time, most people did not actually go back and play things. Like, I've read a study on this once, and it was people want backwards compatibility way more than they actually take advantage of it.
Sure.
Now, I would say that Microsoft, with what they did with the Xbox One, where it's more like true across the board backwards compatibility, like everything, and now that we have free games that come every month where you can get new stuff, not just play your old things.
Yeah.
How often are you going back and playing your old discs?
You really don't, but you're selling the idea, much like we
Yes,
were talking
I
about
agree.
earlier. You're selling this idea to people, right?
Yeah.
So, all right, look, obviously you have to make the idea realistic, otherwise you can't lie to somebody, right? So you have to make the hardware work.
Right.
But like Nintendo has always gone backwards compatible, and at this time they didn't do it, right? And you haven't heard a peep out of anybody. They're not like, oh, I'm so damn mad that I can't play my Wii games on my Switch. Like, it's a CD versus a cartridge. So right there, like, you've already eliminated the potential. Whereas, like, PlayStation's like, we got Blu-rays and we got Blu-rays, but you can't play these Blu-rays because these Blu-rays don't work in our new Blu-ray system. And you're like, why? Why wouldn't you give me the ability to play PS3 games on my PS4? That sucks. But at the same time, on a PS2, or I'm sorry, PS3, I never went back and played any PS2 games. But on my Wii, actually on my Wii U, I do go back and play Wii games sometimes.
Yeah.
And on my Wii, I went back and played GameCube games.
Yeah.
It is a reason for me to maybe trade that system. There's so many avenues you can take here.
Yeah.
But like there's value to, like, some people like need to trade in their old one to get the new one, right? Some people like to collect everything. But selling the idea of backwards compatibility, you will get more people to buy something based on that concept, whether they use it or not. You will lose probably more people if you don't include it. If it seems like there was the potential to add it and you failed to do it.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. It's become a standard at this point. So I think that any iteration of a PlayStation 5, because it's going to happen at some point, whether this is a true rumor or it's actually in 2019 or 2020, it's going to happen. There will be another PlayStation. When that comes through, I think you're going to have backwards compatibility because it's just a requirement at this point, or otherwise people are going to say, well, that's stupid. We had it in last generation with, whatever console.
Here's a formality, though. Did he actually say PS5?
He did.
See, that's a mistake. You should have just said, like, the next PlayStation brand or the next PlayStation system.
Again, though, we don't know where this is coming from.
He doesn't know the name of it, but he said that to get attention, and that's what frustrates me.
It could be, but again, he was right about two different things. So it could be that he's got insider information. I don't know. But
I just want you to know, take some responsibility for your actions.
To round this out and to come to a close here, what does this do to the customer base and to PlayStation fans if this is true? And now only 5 years into a console, or I guess it'll be almost 6 at the time. If only 5 years, 5.5 years into a life cycle, they are now jumping to another generation.
I think financially,
what do you do as a consumer? Are you happy to move along, or is this frustrating for you?
I think for me, it would be extremely frustrating. I think for Sony, it's going to provide massive financial losses initially on a research of new hardware, design, and production, okay? Because I think, you're going to have tons of people that still buy it. They always will. There are always people out there with enough money, and they're excited, and they will always buy the brand new thing, right? It always happens. But then there's people out there like me who, like, I used to be like that, and I will for certain things, right? But it took me a long time to realize that PlayStation was worth it, okay? You don't own one still.
Right.
But I could literally talk your ear off for an hour about how amazing PlayStation is. And it's not because I'm a fanboy. I'm a fan of the games. That's all it is. I hated the PS3 and I love the 360. I hate the One and I love the PS4. I don't know. I just like games. I like games. Give me a system to play games on. I'll tell you if the system's good or not. That's all it is. But if you make another PlayStation, at this point, there's still so many people that don't own one. There's still so many stores that sell PS3s. People are still buying PS3s. People still own PS3s. And the hardware is good hardware, realistically. It's like the 360 is kind of give or take. Like, you can have a broken one, you can have a good one. Not really any real rendition of the 360 was that amazing. Plus, if you go super old, then you're missing out on the Wi-Fi adapter, and everything is online, and there's all these stupid little factors that go into it, right? All these little problems, and all this stuff with the PS3 and the Xbox 360, but there's still plenty of people out there that buy them or are still playing games that are out there for them or whatever, and like PS4, man, my backlog right now is 6 games, and that's being not even generous, realistically. There's a lot of games that I want to play, but out of games I own, there's at least 5 or 6. You release a PS5, I mean, I'm liable to go burn Sony down at this point. I don't want another system until I feel like it's ready.
I think...
But our opinions don't matter.
They do matter as consumers, but we're only one piece of the whole, right? I agree with you, though, and I think a lot of people are kind of looking at it this way. You mentioned Paul Tassi earlier. He's a writer with Forbes, and he's pointing out too that
when did Forbes become this awesome video game publication source? I don't know
Forbes,
why. Their articles are amazing.
Yeah,
they're so good.
You get the right person, I don't know.
I bought a game based on one of their reviews.
Did you really?
I did. Yeah, it was a PC game recently.
So Forbes made a point that they believe that Sony would really alienate their fan base because when the Pro came out, they really touted it as this is the wave of the future, and the PS4 Pro is the best way to play PlayStation games. And this thing has barely been out. So
Yeah.
if you come out next year with a new generation altogether, which in a lot of ways renders your current generation not useless, but it's a ticking time bomb till it's useless.
Yeah.
Then you're really going to upset people that you've made these promises to. I think if anything, it would make more sense, although still doesn't make sense, but it would make more sense to just make this a super PS4 Pro than it would be to make a whole nother generation. Now, I think if Xbox or Microsoft decided to jump to the next generation, that would make more sense because of their position in the market.
Yeah.
And they need a reason to try to say, hey, time to jump aboard and will bring us to the future. And then Sony would have to kind of get dragged along with it.
Right.
But I think it's crazy for them to come out with a new console now. And if this starts a trend of like, hey, every 3-4 years we're going to have a new generation, it's going to get real obnoxious real quick.
Remember the conversation we had about PlayStation a few weeks ago? We were talking about, what is the... in fact, I think it was the episode we had our guest with us. Scott, thank you.
The Destroyer.
So, Scott the Destroyer, that's right. We were talking about how, like, we really feel like there's, like, this 10-year plan, in a sense, for most companies to try to go between, like, generations, right? Because it doesn't make sense to do those quick jumps anymore,
Right.
Especially when things back in the day were, like, you had a number next to them. So it was, like, 8-bit, 16-bit, 32-bit, 64-bit. You could do those kinds of things because the minute you increase a number to the populace, it's just like, oh, this is like 2 times better.
Well, and
32 and
it was
64.
It was
I
a
get
much
it.
noticeable difference between
Yes.
generations too.
Now, don't get me wrong. It took me a while to get on board with the noticeable difference between like 3 and 4, but there is a noticeable difference. But you know what's sweet? I loaded up my original Xbox the other day, like original Xbox. And I couldn't believe visually how well that system still looked. I was like, holy crap.
Depends on the title because there are
Yes,
some
it
that
does.
are rough.
Don't get me wrong, but
Yeah.
like I was like, wow, like this game, like I was playing Burnout 3. I was like, this game looks sweet still. And that was really cool. And that's a
really
long time ago, man.
Yeah, it really depends on what you're playing though. Like especially if you're going to do something like Burnout or Racer, those hold up better than a lot of other things do because as you are when you're doing a racing game, right, you're moving really quickly. So a lot of the stuff that's
Kinda
going by
blurry.
you blurs, and you don't catch that it doesn't have to have the same sort of revolution or definition of intimate details as a normal game would because that's the way it looks when you're going fast, and they get to hide some of those flaws.
Yeah.
But I mean, you go back and you look at even Perfect Dark, right? And Perfect Dark was a pretty decent looking game at the time.
It was a pretty bad game, but it was a pretty decent
Yeah,
game.
it
It was the first game to do motion blur, or at least the one that like kind of made it like popular for games.
Yeah. But you look at that now, and it's
Awful.
it's not that great to look at. But in the next generation, maybe photorealistic video quality.
Right.
I mean, who knows? So,
But I it's like we're at such a great point in gaming right now. Like, I mean, yeah, we always want to create like new things. We want to take like leaps and bounds and constantly create new stuff. But I don't know. I would be fine with if stuff stayed the way it was right now and they just kept making games. Like, just extend it out a little bit. Just like, keep these systems going a little longer. Like, Sony, from a company standpoint, like they're going to make money now on their games, and they're going to still maybe trickle in money on their system sales, depending on.
and they
but
make money.
the
And they make money
longer a
every
system-
time an Xbox is sold.
Not only that, you're right. That is true. But anytime, like somebody buys PlayStation Plus or, whatever, something like that, people are buying their games digitally. I'm sure there's still a percentage that they get out of it. So Sony's still making money in various ways. It doesn't always have to be on hardware. And traditionally, the way hardware works is that from the standpoint of like a retailer, retailers make zero money on hardware. But as the systems get older and older and older, right? Like that profit margin increases because the technology is not worth as much, and so they don't have to buy it for as high. Sony's going to be fine. Microsoft's going to do fine hardware-wise. Controllers break, people buy new controllers, whatever. I just want this stuff to carry on a little bit further because I really like where we're at right now. These games are... I mean, I'm still like 5 years into a PlayStation or 4 years into a PlayStation and an Xbox. I'm just like amazed still what's coming out.
Yeah, we haven't hit that sweet spot yet where things get optimized for the hardware,
Right?
Because there's still room to grow here, which is why I feel like it's too soon to jump generations. I was a little iffy about the Scorpio at first. I am more on board with it now because where they are in the market, I think that it makes sense for Xbox to do this. but I think it's too soon for a PlayStation. But
I agree.
we want to know what you think, though. So comment down below. Let us know. Do you think it's a good time or a bad time to start a PlayStation 5 or to jump generations? And if you are in favor of a PlayStation 5, what do you need to see from it to make it worth your while?
And if you have any of your own speculations on what you think is going to happen, especially with E3 coming up, feel free to comment on those too, because we love speculation.
We're going to have to do our E3 episode soon.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
That's going to have to be a long one.
Yeah, so
buckle up.
Buckle up indeed.
Buckaroos.
So I've been your host, Jason Saris, and with me is David Reed. Like this video, share it with your friends, subscribe to the channel, and once again, give us your comments. Let us know what you think. David, it's that time of the moment, time of the evening, where we get to find out how you're going to communicate with our listener base here.
I've been gone for a few weeks. Took up Morse code. Okay. I heard it's the way people communicate now. Yeah. I mean, we won wars with Morse code.
That's true.
Why can't I communicate with people? So, if you want, just beep 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 beep, below, and I will beep 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 beep, and we'll communicate. It'd be great. It's the easiest way to reach me, man. Just put some dots and lines on there. It's all it takes.
You can follow the group on Twitter at DwnFwdPUNCH. That's at DwnFwdPUNCh. Or if you'd like to follow me directly, you can follow me at Sergio Armani. David is not on Twitter yet, so you're going to have to stick to
I'm on Twitter. I just don't use it.
So you'll have to stick to the Morse code right now, or Pigeons, or Direct Dave.
Direct Dave.
We can always check in with Direct Dave.
To Direct Dave.
You don't happen to have another clip we can cut to, do you? Let's look. Let's see what
let's see. We might have to dig in the archives.
Let's see what's on the Direct Dave right now.
Yeah.
That's progress.
I mean,
You're so close.
I have made some great strides in my life.
This is one of them.
I'm just saying, man, every day gets a little easier and a little better.
All right, that's all for us today. Thank you for watching, and stay tuned for next week. And until then, keep on gaming.